one of the things about New Zealand at the moment is that there's a lot happening. There's a lot of building happening, a lot of new building happening. And particularly, you know, most of New Zealand, well, not most of it, but Auckland is the big city, and it has a third of the population of New Zealand, isn't it? And there's still a lot of small towns, and they often tend to miss out. They don't get the funding, or they don't, you know, they've got different requirements. So the whole thing about the Whakatane job was, yeah, is it 15,000 people? I don't know how big the town is.
18,000 people.
So it's a little town. It's got a very, very high Maori population. And what had happened was that they had, in their small town, one of the bigger tenancies had moved out to a kind of an out-of-town shopping centre and left this big building in the middle of town that was empty, and it was too big for any of the locals to take on as a shop. And so as a result, all the little shops around it died. They didn't. It became this big abandoned part of town, and so we won a design competition for a library and exhibition space. And what we said was, no, put it in this building. Hold on, you've got a building for free. It's only 20 years old. It's not a great building, but it's free. You haven't got enough money to do anything more than that. So put it in here, but by putting the library in this building, on one side it had the supermarket, and on the other side it had sort of New Zealand equivalent of Walmart, kind of a big shopping shop. And so what it meant was that when people went to the library, or when they went to the supermarket or to the big shop, they wouldn't take their kids with them, because you can't afford to take your kids to the supermarket because it costs you more money. So they'd send them to the library. That was really our pitch. That we just make it really simple, and this population that really hasn't ever really, historically been to the library, we'll just make it like a part of their living room.
Yeah. So, I mean, the success of that job it's the funniest pitch we've ever given, because at the end of we think you should put the library in this abandoned Briscoe's building. One of the councillors said to me, I think you've got the wrong slide, son. I think you mean the other one. And we said, no, we mean the Briscoe's. And then when we got the job, there was a lot of, it was a bit of cynicism. But the test of that is that now the population of Whakatane pass through that building every month. So they have user numbers that have gone from sort of 3,000 people a month to 18 to 19,000 people pass through that building. And it's phenomenal. It's more people than use libraries in bigger towns. And so part of it is that it's this modest little thing that's approachable, and it's in the middle of town, and it's transformational. The other side of that job is half of the floor plate is an exhibition centre. It's their sort of museum, and we can't take all the credit for that. It's a well thought out, and it's a very modest inhabitation of kind of the back end of an old retail store, which is ideal for a museum. It's black. You can do whatever you like in it. But the guys there have done a great job of telling stories that, in a really attainable way, that relate to the Maori population. So
it invites them in.
There's a reason for them to go to this building, and they've really embraced it. And so, one, be proud of it. It's a great great intervention. It shows that for not an awful lot of money, you can help a New Zealand council fix the mess it's made of its own town. But also, I like the notion that it's a really positive community story, and that it didn't take hundreds of millions of dollars for the community. It just took the idea that you could let them go and hear their own stories.
So yeah, it's really all about what we didn't do.
Mm.
So we said, you don't need to do anything outside. You've got this little space. All we're going to do is open up to put some windows in. We're going to put people on the inside reading books against the window, and we're going to put people sitting outside the building, sitting with their backs against a nice sunny wall under a cover, against the library. What happened was that they had a library that they had about 30 people a day going to, and it was just absolutely full of books. Like they couldn't squeeze another book into the shelves. And the whole way through the project, they kept saying, we need more shelves, more shelves. And we keep saying, no, we don't want shelves, we want more seats. So we had this sort of debate. And after they opened, within a week, they ran out of books. So it wasn't about having, it was when no one was going to the library, they needed lots of shelves. When people are going, you don't need so many shelves, you need more books.
They take the books home. We had this great visit where there were 6 of the most stressed librarians you've ever met because they actually had to deal with people. They were going through sort of 120 visits a day each, and they were used to about 6. And they had one guy who was out the back piling old magazines into boxes and putting them on the shelves so that the library didn't look empty, because all of their books were in the houses of the Whakatane district. It was great.
And I was giving this, I can't remember where it was, but I was giving this talk about this building, and I had up the slide up on the wall of this young Maori girl in the kids section, and I realised that the only books left on the shelves were English kids books. So all the Te Reo Maori books, all the Maori language books, the indigenous language of New Zealand, were all home. They'd all gone. And I thought, that's the moments, right? That's what you do architecture for. What we said to them was you've only got money to do 3 things. So we're going to do 3 things really well. And they had no money. I mean, it was really, basically, and so we said, 1, you've got to make the building become public. You've got to make it civic. So the big sunscreen that we wrapped across the front of it is made out of the floors of what they have in fishing boats. So fiberglass mesh that they put on the floor. So we could get that, so that was a way of making the building public, and it made a space for people to sit under, and it reinvented itself. Yeah. That was the first one, and then the second one we said you need to look inside.
Look inside, really.
Yeah. It was about making holes.
Yeah.
And putting people, whether they were sitting outside or whether they're inside, always against each other, so that they could see, there's, they all know each other. There's so and so from our community inside reading a book. I'm going to have a look.
It was about making we made a public face again with a veranda, but in a different context this time. Yeah. And then we made a public edge, and a sort of a 2-sided public edge. Yeah, I think that was the key. It made that space urban again, didn't it?
Yeah, it made people walk along the edge of the building. Everyone, the same boat. And then the third thing was inside the building, we cut a hole, and so there's a kind of a lovely covered external space in the middle of the building, which allows the building to breathe, can actually ventilate, but it means that you're inside the building, and whether you're in the exhibition space or the library, you can head into this outside space, which is fun and relaxed and full of beanbags, and just sort of slows everything down a bit and makes it kind of a little less, just sort of a little less controlled.
The design response is really appropriate to the nature of the community. I don't know. Again, I don't know if you got that right on purpose or not, but I think that's the thing that stands out about that job for us. And I think the fact that we could only do 2 or 3 things and we could do them well, again, it's that notion of knowing where to start and where to stop. We talked about it at Gisborne. Those decisions were almost made for us, but instead of trying to do everything, we did the most important stuff as well as we could, and some of the other things just come along afterwards.
It doesn't matter so much.
Yeah, and that kind of rigor or that restraint is a hard thing to learn. But once you've got it, I think it's something you hang on to. Mm.
We were quite with that building won the top public building in New Zealand, and we were pretty amazed. It was fantastic, what we really enjoyed about that was that just because it hasn't got a big budget and and it's not in the main centre, and it's doing something in a different way, doesn't mean it's not a really good piece of architecture, and it doesn't change the community. So that's, you know, that was what I got. I think that was another good, you know, it meant that people were listening. You know, that people would understand that this had changed the community, and that's what architecture is. You know? So back to that thing about participating in place rather than remaking it. We didn't need to remake it. We just had to make it work.
Yeah.